スーパーファミコンソフトスーパーメトロイド。
Oh, how the time has come. Super Metroid. I've been really looking forward to this one. So, to kind of put things into perspective, Metroid is one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, period, with Samus being one of my favorite characters. And yet, you wouldn't get that impression from this channel, just because the only games I've played are the first two Metroid games, which, frankly, haven't aged all that well. The original game was good for its time, because it's like, you know, you're in this massive maze and you gotta figure your way around. So it kind of served its purpose well. But, nowadays it's not a lot of fun to go back to be honest. And Metroid 2, well, it was very impressive for Game Boy standards, it's still a Game Boy game. It's not that long, its gameplay isn't incredible, honestly. And it lacked in a lot of areas, but Super Metroid here, talk about a turnaround for a franchise. This is one of the best games in the Metroid franchise, as well as one of the best games on the Super Nintendo. And we've played a lot of great Super Nintendo games between Super Mario World, Super Castlevania 4, but this is pretty up there. Also, I'd like to note that a moment ago Jaina was sitting in this seat over here, and you might be wondering why this massive blanket is on her chair today. That's because I forgot to put this away when I was doing laundry, and I just kind of left it here on the chair. Jaina immediately swept up on that and decided to start sitting there. It was kind of ridiculous, it was like her own little throne, but hey, now we can actually see the Metroid poster. How appropriate, right? But anyway, now that all of that is out of the way, let's go ahead and start our own save file. Looks like our last save file here, we played for about 4 hours, although I honestly don't remember doing this. Let's make sure we set our controls right. Oh god, why would I have that be that? I'm gonna go with shot Y, jump B, dash A, item select, select, item cancel, X, sure, and then angle up and down is the bumpers, which yes, you read that right. But before we get into any of that, let's just see the game's story synopsis here.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
I hope you like that voice acting, because that's all of it, so now we have to narrate ourselves. I first battled the Metroids on planet Zebus. It was there I foiled the plans of the space pirate leader Mother Brain to use creatures to attack galactic civilization. This is recounting the events of the first Metroid game. And we even get to see our own little 16-bit version of the original boss, and all those annoying Rinkas that were around too. I next fought the Metroids on their homeworld, SR-388. I completely eradicated them, except for a larva, which after hatching, followed me, like a confused child. Unfortunately, we don't get to see any of the cool Metroid transformations from Metroid 2 here in 16-bit. We'll get to that in a later entry, but we do get to see the baby Metroid hatch, which is relevant to this game's story. I personally delivered it to the Galactic Research Station at Ceres, so scientists could study its energy-producing qualities. So now we have new events after Metroid 2. Samus is giving the baby Metroid away to some scientists, although what happened to our cool shoulder pads from the Varia suit? The scientists' findings were outstanding. They discovered that the powers of the Metroid might be harnessed for the good of civilization. Satisfied that all was well, I left the station to seek a new bounty to hunt, but I had hardly gone beyond the asteroid belt when I picked up a distress signal. Ceres Station was under attack. As you can see from this intro, they're really not hiding the fact that Samus is a woman anymore. I mean, that was a neat, like, gimmick in the first game of like, hey, did you know? But at this point, yeah, it has been 2 games, everybody knows now. Here we arrive on Ceres Station. I love how this game's story kind of takes priority over a lot of things. Now, one thing that is kind of strange, just like with Metroid 2, we're back to square one in terms of power-ups. Or kinda, anyway. We can still crouch, shoot downward and upward like Metroid 1 and 2, but now, using the bumpers left and right, we can angle our shots up and down, even in midair. We can also just do that with a D-pad if we want to Just kind of speed things up, although that does force you to kind of move about. I personally really prefer using the bumpers, and yeah, look at these corpses. This is a Nintendo game, everyone. Just flat out blood, several bodies, and it seems the Metroid has escaped. Here we have the reintroduction of one of the greatest villains in video games, but as we enter this room, well, there's the baby Metroid, not far from where it was originally. So what happened to the scientists? Well, it seemed Ridley decided to give them a visit. Ridley is returning from the original game, and he is much, much bigger and stronger than he was last time. Not to mention more imposing, I have to say. But we're gonna go ahead and intentionally take a bunch of damage here. I'll show you why. Ridley wants to steal the baby Metroid. Why? I don't know, but we definitely have to stop him. And we have an emergency sequence. Self-destruct sequence activated. Evacuate colony immediately. Oh wow, we only have like a minute. We do also have the run button, which is one other new mechanic, using, well, whatever button we assigned. But yeah, Ridley is the one who killed those scientists and has now stolen the baby Metroid. That's also why I intentionally took damage, just to get that fight over with, because it's not one we can actually win. But yeah, just look at this new game engine we're in. Everything's bending, and Samus is looking much better on a 16-bit sprite. It's just an overall impressive game to play. And just in the nick of time, Samus escapes. Wow, Ceres Station did not last long, neither did those scientists. But we must now return to planet Zebus, the planet we visited in the original game, and it doesn't exactly explain why, although it's because Ridley went here. I guess it can just be inferred that we saw Ridley go this way, but I would have liked a cutscene kind of showing that, to be honest. Now as we arrive here, the music is very ominous, and the rain is intense, there's lightning. This game is just an absolute spectacle. I honestly don't think there's anything massively wrong with this game. Even though it came out back in 1994. Like, you'd think a lot of games like this, there'd be some kind of dated mechanic. Like, even Mario World, lives are kind of a dated mechanic at this point. Even the most unfair and ridiculous of games like Cuphead and Dark Souls don't have limited lives just because that isn't quite how games do things anymore. But with Super Metroid here, there's really nothing that's flat out outdated. Sure, the control scheme in later Metroid games has been greatly updated, and there's been a lot of fun new features, but this game works perfectly as is, I'd say. But aside from all my gushing, here we are back in the same chamber where we escaped initially in the first Metroid game from the explosion that was caused when we defeated Mother Brain. As you'll see from over these halls, this is where Mother Brain was. Now, because of those flashback sequences at the beginning, you really don't have to play the previous two Metroid games, and certainly not in their original forms. Not after Zero Mission, AM2R, and Samus Returns have all been released. Either way, you still get a good idea as to what's happened up to this point, and you still get a really good experience overall. And just like before, we have the Morph Ball right to the left of the entrance. Who'd have thought the elevator to Mother Brain was right there where we started? I guess we had to go get some power-ups before taking her on. Hi there, camera. Why are you looking at me so intently? You even got the statues to turn towards me. Even though we got the Morph Ball, there's not really much we can do over here, I don't think. Yeah, we need missiles to go that way. Well, we can use our new shoot-down ability from Metroid 2. Is there anything useful over here, even? I'm not quite sure. What do you got for me? Oh, you do have missiles, okay. Chozo Statues, all the classic music cues are all elements returning from the previous games. It's so bizarre how this game takes so much from the previous entries in terms of control, setup, style, story, everything, and yet somehow it just comes out so much better than previous entries. Ooh, another missile expansion right here, right away. How about that? Also, I already have ignored one missile expansion that I think was in the wall somewhere there. I won't be going for 100% in this game. I don't think I ever have gotten 100%, but to be honest, it's never really interested me. A lot of the fun from Metroid games, I'd say, comes from going about it your own way and challenging it in one swift go. I like going in, finding whatever missile expansions I can, finding whatever power-ups I can, and I'm not going to worry about trying to find every single hidden nook and cranny. Also, hey, space pirates have come on up. It seems they've occupied the area where Mother Brain once was. Luckily, they go down super quickly. And that's another gimmick you might have noticed with the door, is that it was gray, and then once we killed all the enemies, it started to blink blue. Basically, that's a, you need to kill all the enemies in this area before you can progress kind of door. What else is there to mention? Right now, we're just kind of backtracking, killing some space pirates, and now that we have missiles, of course, we can go in a lot of the red doors that we just kind of breezed past earlier. I guess one last thing to note is that just like both Metroid 1 and 2, you do have different endings based on how quickly you beat the game. And the best ending is under 3 hours, which is better than I've ever done. So I'll either have to show that off in an extra part, or we'll just have to really hope we do well. That's why I'm gonna kind of rush through a lot of things. I mean, a lot of this stuff is the same as the previous Metroid entries, you know, you go in rooms, you get Chozo Statues that give you power-ups, that sort of stuff. We know the standard Metroid affair, after all. We've played both of the previous entries. And hey, this time we actually have a map, as you can see. Plus there's this map room here which fills out all the areas we haven't seen yet. I can't stress enough how nice it is to have that map, though honestly, this game's solid level design kind of takes away the need for a map like that. You can kind of figure out where you need to go based on what doors you can access with missiles, what areas are locked behind other power-ups, what generally feels like the right way to go, you know? Whereas in the first Metroid, you'd literally go to Brinstar or Kraid's Lair, whatever it was, and then you'd be like, okay, there's like 5 different doors here at the entrance, which one do I go in? It really was just a maze in the original game, but here, it's more like a smart kind of dungeon. Also, just like Metroid 2, which this might be the only time I ever show this off, just for my own sake, we have save rooms returning, although they do take a bit more time here. Hold on, I accidentally hit the wrong button. Oh man. You know what, fine, we won't save at all. But yeah, you can save, and you have up to 3 save files, which is actually more than we had in Metroid 2 as well. It's clear saving was becoming the norm of gaming at this point. Even platformers like Mario and Sonic were having save systems, despite not being, like, massive adventures. Which is why it still kind of irks me when I play Mega Man X, and it's like, here's a password, and I'm like, okay. What kind of power-up do we have over here? Ah, yes, the classic Morph Ball Bomb, a necessity of every Metroid game, after all. And as we try to leave, the door appears to close on us. Well, this is the one instance in the game where we have a Teresa statue. This guy right here is some weird transformation of the Chozo statue that's evil. It's not a Chozo that's gone evil, it's a different creature entirely. It is very weak to missiles, as you can see. Like, wow, it just really went down like that. And it'll give us a lot of ammo afterwards. It's a pretty easy boss, I'd say. But if you haven't picked up as many missile expansions as I have at this point, it can be a bit more tricky.